In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing this DA15 machine polisher by In2Detailing. So the brand kindly sent this polisher down to review and get my honest thoughts on. So having used it quite a few times now, I'm going to be sharing my experience using it. So first things first, I'm going to start by taking you through the specifications and features of this dual action polisher. So this has a 1000-watt motor and a 15mm throw, so it is classified as a long throw with dual action polisher. It's relatively lightweight, weighing in at about 2.3 kilograms. And has a really generous 6-metre mains cable. It also comes with a 125mm backing plate, so just shy of 5 inches. So it is balanced to suit this size of backing plate, so it shouldn't be swapped out for, say, a smaller plate. A nice feature that I noticed is that the backing plate is vented, which helps to keep the pad cooler, which is really beneficial to avoid heat build-up when polishing the paint. In terms of actually operating the machine, it's very simple. It has a trigger and you can lock that in place with a little button on the side. Only thing that I'll notice is that this trigger lock is on the left-hand side, and personally being left-handed, it is kind of on the wrong side for me, so it is a little bit awkward when I'm trying to lock that in place, but of course for the vast majority of the population that's just not going to be a concern. It has a dial which shows 6 available speeds, but each of them do have a half step, so there's plenty of adjustability when it comes to setting the speed of this machine. There are a few rubberised sections which just help to make it feel a little bit nicer when you're holding it for a long period of time, and do help to increase the grip too. It also comes with a D handle if you want to attach this to the machine. I personally don't use it. You get an Allen key if you want to remove the backing plate, and it also comes with a 12-month warranty. I thought it'd be a good idea to show you a demonstration of this polisher to show you really what it's capable of when paired with a good pad and polish. So here I'm working on this 2010 Audi A4, which has very hard paintwork and some quite severe scratches on the boot lid. So I split it in two so I could get a good 50-50 and went in with a microfiber pad by G3 Pro and the Koshemi H902 heavy cut compound. So this is a pretty aggressive combination to deal with heavier defects on harder paints. I think it's a good idea to prime a pad regardless of whether it's foam or microfiber, but it is especially important with a microfiber pad to ensure that the polish in a compound liquid is fully coating all the fibres. So I used a nozzle on the compound bottle to spread it around the pad and coat the fibres as much as possible. And then to fully prime it, I put it on speed 2 for about 10 seconds, lightly moving it around the paintwork. After this, I checked that all the fibres were fully covered and then put around 4 pea-sized dots onto the polishing pad to actually correct the paintwork. I first spread the polish using speed 2 of the machine and then upped it to speed 4 and did 2 vertical and 2 horizontal passes using pretty slow arm speed. I wiped off the polish residue using a microfiber towel and then used Pro Eraser panel wipe solution to remove any oils that might be on the surface and masking any imperfections. As you can hopefully see, there was a really good level of correction here. There were some heavier scratches still left in, which is to be expected, but I was really impressed with the overall level of correction here. With this being a very heavy combination, I would only really use this as a 2-step and follow this up with a finishing polish, for example Shell S40, just to remove any light hazing and gloss up the finish. So in terms of my experience actually using the polisher, I'll first start off by saying I think it's really good, especially when you consider how affordable this machine is. So the RRP is £180, but at least at the time of making this video, it's actually on sale for £150, so it sits in a really good price point for an affordable polisher. I thought that the machine was nice and lightweight, weighing just 2.3 kilograms. Now that is coming in slightly lighter than equivalent machines from brands like Rupes, Flex and Milwaukee, but only by a few hundred grams. The main thing I'll say is it just doesn't feel that heavy and awkward to use. In terms of the vibration, there is some vibration there definitely, but it's really not that bad and really not as much as I thought it'd be either, considering that this is nice and affordable. When I compare it to my old Argos polisher, it's really night and day, and the vibration on the Argos one is horrible, so this is a definite step up if you are looking to make that change. The downside though is that it is going to have more vibration than something like a Flex or a Rupes, which is costing obviously significantly more, but if you are a professional who's going to be using this for hours a day at a time, then it is definitely worth considering a more premium option. In terms of the power and cutting capability, it is really, really good. It's a very powerful machine, and the 15mm throw makes it really efficient at cutting through quite heavy defects on particularly hard paintworks. I can quite confidently use this for a 2-stage correction on harder paintworks like Audis, BMWs and Volkswagen. but equally it isn't difficult to use and refine softer paintworks either. I think the 6 metre mains cable is really good and tends to be slightly longer than other options of a similar price. The disadvantage though is that of course it does have a cord and there are cordless options out there, so if you do want to be completely free from wires then this of course isn't going to be the best option for you. In terms of the build quality, it feels nice and solid and I've certainly had no issues with it in the times that I've been using it. There's no sort of backing plate wobble or anything like that, and no issues with build quality that I've noticed. I did also want to quickly address the noise level, so I got a little decibel meter on my phone and tested it when running it at speed 4, and it was hovering around that 90 decibel range, which for reference is pretty similar to most pressure washers and vacuums, so nothing ridiculously loud, but it isn't quiet either, so just something to keep in mind. So what I wanted to address in this next part of the video is some different types of machine polisher. So if you are a complete beginner looking to get your first polisher, then I'm hoping this section will really help you. So there are 2 main types that you've probably already heard of, and those are rotary and dual action. Rotary just spins in one direction, and dual action has an oscillation, which helps to reduce the heat build-up and also is a lot easier for a beginner to get to grips with. I personally just use a dual action polisher and find that you can get really good cutting ability out of it, but also it's just nice and easy to use too. Now, when diving in a little bit deeper to dual action polishers, there are actually 2 different types of those too. So there's forced rotation and random orbital. So this particular machine, the DA15 from In2Detailing, is a random orbital polisher, which means that the rotation can stall if you put too much pressure on or have the pad kind of tilted at an angle and don't keep it relatively flat. Now this definitely works well as a safety feature, so if you're worried about burning through the paint, then the risks of it are really reduced with this type of polisher. Forced rotation, on the other hand, although it still has that oscillation, which is characteristic of a dual action polisher, that rotation will continue to happen regardless of how much pressure you're actually putting on the machine. The main benefit here is that it won't stall out if you're using it on a curved panel. Also, to go a little bit deeper into the different types of polisher, they can also have different throws, which refers to the size of the orbit. So you can have short throw machine polishers which don't have a very large orbit, or long throw ones which have a much larger orbit. So a short throw is anything around 8mm or less, and a long throw is anything more than that, with the most popular options being 15mm and 21mm. The benefit of a long throw polisher is that it makes the process more efficient. You're covering a larger area, but you're also generating more heat, so there is a little bit more risk involved, but again, these polishers are pretty safe to be using. The benefits of a short throw though is that it's not going to generate as much heat, so again you're reducing that risk even more. You also get more precision when working on the edges because of that lower offset, which means the pad isn't moving in such a large area, which can lead to reduced efficiency when working on edges. And also one of the main benefits is that it won't stall out as much if you are using it on curved panels. There were some scenarios when using the DA15 on a concave panel where it was a little bit hard to keep that pad spinning, and switching to a machine that had a smaller backing plate and lower orbit probably would have made things a little bit easier. Now with this DA15 it is balanced to suit that 5-inch backing plate, so you can't just swap it out for a smaller one, and you really just need to use an entirely different machine for those more difficult areas. A short throw polisher though, for example like In2Detailing DA8 polisher, which has that 8mm throw, actually allows you to work with either a 3mm or a 5mm backing plate, so you can really work on curved cars without any issues at all. In terms of which machine is actually best for you, it really depends on what your requirements are and what your budget is. If you're a beginner that's just starting out and don't have anything in your collection, then going for the DA8 is probably a more sensible option, as you can use either that 5-inch or 3-inch backing plate and you're going to be able to use it on the whole vehicle. The benefit though of a DA15 is that it is going to be more efficient, so if you are using it quite frequently then that is going to be of benefit. The disadvantage though is that you are going to need to pair it with a smaller tool, for example In2Detailing's DA12, which is suitable for a 3-inch backing plate and has a 12mm orbit for those more curvy panels. When I first started planning this review, I did put a poll up on my Instagram to see what kind of things people wanted me to address. So I had a couple of requests for the sort of accessories that I'm using too, and I do think I am going to make a sort of separate video on this where I can really kind of deep dive into it. But just quickly, I wanted to run through the things that I'm using. So firstly, I do have a paint depth gauge. This is the Next Diag Pro one, and it just connects up to my phone so I can easily read the paint depth. So this only really measures the overall paint depth rather than just the clear coat. But here I'm really looking for measurements of above about 75 microns to be able to do a reasonable amount of polishing. Anything less than that and I do get a little bit more cautious. I also have this Unilight inspection light which has 1250 lumens and 3 different colour settings, so it's really good for identifying defects. In terms of the pads and polishes that I'm using, I do use a bit of a range, but I'm really liking at the moment the Koshemi lineup, as they have both pads and polishes for light, heavy and medium cut. and I think particularly for beginners it's going to be a really easy system to understand. Their heavy cut does have a lot of cut to it, so I find that that's only really useful on harder German paints where I'm doing a two-stage correction. Sometimes I will also pair that with a microfiber pad, as I did on the Audi that I was demonstrating previously, to deal with those deeper defects, but for most situations the foam pads work very well. As I mentioned, the plan is to make a separate video on a kind of a machine polisher starter kit, so if that's something you're interested in, please drop a comment and let me know. If you have enjoyed this video though, it'd be brilliant if you could drop it a like, and thanks very much for watching.